Welcome back to World Watch. Today's video is different. It's about a story that needs to be heard. Imagine losing everything in a moment, your home, your family, your safety, all because of a war you didn't start. This is the reality for millions in Syria. Today, we'll uncover the human stories of pain, survival, and unimaginable sacrifice, including that of Mazen al-Hamada, whose life became a symbol of suffering and resilience. Stay with us until the end, because their stories deserve to be told and remembered. A sound that changed everything. Imagine waking up to the sound of explosions. Your home is gone. Your family is missing. And your only crime: being born in a country torn apart by a war that seems to have no end. Syria, a land once rich in culture and history, now synonymous with destruction and suffering. But amidst the ruins are voices, stories that refuse to be silenced. Today, we'll uncover what is happening in Syria, how it has reshaped the world, and the heartbreaking story of people like Mazen al-Hamada, a man whose voice echoed for justice. Stick around, because while this story begins in despair, it ends with hope. From hope to chaos, how it all started. To understand Syria today, we need to go back to 2011. In March of that year, the Arab Spring swept across the Middle East, igniting hope for change. In Syria, peaceful protests began against years of oppressive rule under President Bashar al-Assad. But instead of listening, the government answered with unimaginable force. Bullets replaced dialogue. Fear replaced freedom. What started as a demand for dignity spiraled into a brutal civil war that has lasted over a decade. A nation shattered. The human toll. This war didn't just destroy buildings, it shattered lives. Over 500,000 people have died. More than 13 million Syrians, half the country's population, have been forced to flee their homes. Think about that number. 13 million. Imagine an entire country disappearing before your eyes, its people scattered across the globe, desperate to find safety. And then there are those who couldn't leave. Those trapped between a ruthless regime, rebel forces, and extremist groups like ISIS. Mazen al-Hamada, a story you'll never forget. One of the darkest parts of Syria's tragedy lies behind closed doors, its prisons. Tens of thousands of Syrians have been detained, tortured, and silenced. Among them was Mazen al-Hamada. Mazen was an ordinary man, a peaceful protester, a voice for justice. In 2012, his life changed forever when he was arrested by Syrian intelligence forces. What Mazen endured in prison is beyond words: unimaginable torture, starvation, and forced humiliation. He watched friends die, their bodies left in the corner of cells. But Mazen survived. After a year of suffering, he was released and fled Syria. He traveled the world, bravely sharing his story to demand justice and expose the horrors of Syria's prisons. Yet Mazen's courage came at a price. In 2019, Mazen made a heartbreaking decision: he returned to Syria. The regime had threatened his family, and despite knowing the danger, he sacrificed himself to protect the ones he loved. His suffering began again, in the same prisons he once escaped. Mazen endured torture once more, but this time, he did not make it out. 2 days before Syria was declared free in parts of the country, Mazen al-Hamada died. He didn't live to see the freedom he fought so hard for, but his story remains a beacon of courage and sacrifice. Mazen's life is not just a story of pain, it is a reminder of how far people will go for justice, for family, and for hope. The world can't look away. The war in Syria has sent ripples across the globe. Refugees have fled to Europe, the Middle East, and beyond, sparking debates on immigration, security, and compassion. Syria became a geopolitical chessboard, with powers like the United States, Russia, Iran, and Turkey using it as a stage for their agendas. But while governments argue, the people suffer. Behind every headline is a face, a name, and a story. The light that refuses to go out yet, even in the darkest moments, there is hope. The Syrian people have shown a resilience that defies imagination. Doctors perform surgeries in underground hospitals. Teachers bring education to refugee camps. Artists paint on walls of destruction, reminding the world of Syria's strength and beauty. The war isn't over, but every story told, every life saved, and every voice raised brings us closer to justice and peace. A final message the world must hear. Mazen al-Hamada once said, "We cannot stop speaking until the world listens." Syria's war is more than a story, it's a call to action for all of us. To remember Mazen and the countless others like him, to support those who are still suffering, and to work toward a world where tragedies like this never happen again. Share this story, because awareness creates change. Syria's pain is not over, but neither is its fight for hope and humanity. For Syria. For justice. For the future. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to The World Watch.